Welcome to Doctrine and Devotion, the podcast exploring Christian faith and practice from a Reformed Baptist perspective. My name is Joe Thorne. I'm the lead pastor of Redeemer Fellowship in St. Charles, Illinois.
And I'm Jimmy Fowler, executive pastor at Redeemer Fellowship.
What's going on, boo-boo?
You know, we're chilling. We're hanging out.
Chilling?
Oh, it's
an
cold.
ice storm going on out there for a
whatever.
couple days. It is. It's an ice
I know,
storm.
but yeah.
Yeah, you didn't have to shovel your drive this morning. I did, and it was all ice.
Oh, did you? Did you really? Oh,
Yeah.
poor baby.
Yeah,
the
I got
one
soft
time
hand.
a year you do it.
No, I've been shoveling many times this year.
We all know Jen does it.
Jen doesn't do it.
Oh.
My hand, look at my hand. My hands are so. Jen's hands are calloused because she does deadlifts and works out, and she's
And
all
does the
ripped.
chores
She
around the
does
house.
well, obviously, she's
Yeah,
my
and,
wife,
and
so
the
she's
yard,
the mother,
you know?
so she does the chores around the house.
I've seen her, build furniture.
Yeah, of course, she's the wife.
Cut the lawn.
Yes, exactly. Right. What do husbands don't do that stuff? Are they supposed to do that?
Yeah, or rake the leaves.
No, we just let it fall. We got it all natural.
Well, you just let it fall.
Yeah.
And then Jen
It's called fall
cleans
for
up.
a reason. Jen does those things because she's better at them than me. And I do some stuff.
What's the stuff?
I take out the garbage.
Okay.
See, there's that.
There's that.
Yep.
What else?
There's many things. I don't want to brag.
Like many garbage bags over the course of a year.
There's like garbage bags. There's recycling. Do the recycling.
Oh,
that's
so
different from garbage.
You just doubled what you do.
That's right. So like there's 100% increase right there.
Good job. Good
garbage and recycling.
What else?
I make the money. So there's that.
Oh,
so
okay.
that's a sizable.
Make the money like actual money, like like modest, or are you making?
You can't compare.
Are you making McDonald money?
No. We don't have a pension plan here. When I leave in shame because I'm doing terrible things to people. Nothing like that.
Well, no. I mean, if you look at the McDonald method, you will have nothing to worry about.
Yeah, the pension will kick in, and
not just that. People they won't. They'll just let you do what you do. That's messed up. What's going on, or allegedly what's going on? Did you listen to Mancow this morning?
It's definitely going on.
No, you don't know if it's definitely going on.
Wait, hang on.
What is that? Did Siri just answer something?
I don't know what that is. It's like an ad on a website or something.
All right.
That was odd.
So, did you listen to Mancow this morning?
I don't listen to Mancow.
Oh, okay. So you didn't listen to Mancow?
Well, I listened today, but I don't normally listen to Mancow. Now, a lot of people listen and don't know who Mancow is. You got to explain.
All right, Mancow.
Because your family and Mancow go way back, don't they?
No, we don't go way. Stop it. We don't go way back. You need to stop right there.
What?
Stop right
Okay.
there.
I'm
Stop
stopping.
there. We don't go way back.
Well, to the 90s.
So Mancow's a radio personality in Chicago. Well, I guess he was national as well.
Yeah, based out of Chicago.
Based out of Chicago. So it's probably a bit more, it's not for.
Like if Howard Stern was less funny and more chaotic and less popular, he'd be Mancow.
I don't know if he's less funny.
Oh, he's
I
definitely
think they're the same amount of funny.
Less funny.
I think they're the same amount of funny.
Okay.
But I will say chaotic. My gosh.
Oh,
it's like
yeah.
his ADD kicks in on the air.
Even the format of the show, it's like,
It like you get
it's
whiplash.
back and forth. Yeah, it's crazy. So anyways, we're talking about Mancow. We both listened to Mancow's show today.
Yeah, and it's because he claims Christ, right? He says, I'm a believer, love Jesus.
Was a member at Harvest.
Talks about, James McDonald, the impact spiritually that he's had on his life, and
they were friends, hung
really
out
close. Yeah. And so he's been on a bit of a rampage for the last couple weeks.
Calling out pastor.
Calling out James.
Yeah.
Calling him out to be a man, step down.
Resign,
show where all the money's gone. And then today started releasing clips. Now, you and I both had the same frustration with those clips.
Play the whole thing, or at least play a nice section of it.
Yeah, there's no context with it.
It's like a sentence.
Listen, anything can be edited to sound and I'm not a James McDonald fan, but you got to give context here. That's a bit unfair.
Yeah. I know. Listen, I'm a guy we both are guys that think James needs to resign. He shouldn't be in ministry. But when they're playing these audio clips that are allegedly of James saying some
horrific things,
some really bad things, I still want to know, like some of them you can just know, like, okay, he said this bad thing about this person. Obviously, you don't need context for that. Then there are other things
like kitty porn, put kitty porn on his computer,
on somebody's computer. Like I don't. So, but who and what and why?
No, who he's saying to do it out to the
but who would put it on there?
Oh yeah, and it's just really weird, just really, really, really weird. And like we said, we talked about this, Joe and I, that it's cutting in and out mid-sentence.
Right.
So context is missing there. Like, is he saying,
let's go put this on his computer?
Let's go put this on his computer, or, man, that's a horrible idea to put this on his computer.
Yeah, I would never do that.
Yeah.
I would do a lot of things, but I wouldn't do that. So we just don't know. But I don't think I think we should, even when you've got somebody in your sights that has proven themselves to be untrustworthy, it doesn't mean that you believe every accusation or that you always interpret every possible thing in a negative light. But anyways, yeah, it's.
We should talk about that later. I
do want to do a
bonus episode on it. But along with what you just said, there have been accusations made in the past, and now we're going to talk more about the SBC and sexual abuse.
Yeah, listen, guys, we talk about serious stuff. We talk about theology and doctrine and devotion and the Lord and the church, and those are serious things, but we have fun as we do it.
Yeah.
Really can't have fun as we're about to have this conversation about sexual abuse in the SBC. This article came out in the Houston Chronicle. It's by a team of reporters, Robert Downen, Lisa Olson, and John Tedesco. This came out February 10th, 2019. It's the first of 3 articles that are going to be coming out. Mm-hmm. And it is a painful expose on a 20-year study, basically 20-year research that covers or spans 20 years of sexual allegation. In fact, one of the things it says here at the very beginning is, in all, since 1998, so we're just talking 20 years here, roughly 380 Southern Baptist church leaders and volunteers have faced allegations of sexual misconduct. That includes those who were convicted, credibly accused, and successfully sued, and those who confessed or resigned. And if more of these people worked in Texas than any other state.
Wow.
That's not because Texas is a terrible place. Texas is a great state, but there are many Southern Baptist churches there, so there's going to be a lot there.
Yeah.
Right. So how many victims, Jimmy, are in the wake of these accusations that have been made?
Yeah, I mean, according to the Houston Chronicle, 700 victims.
You know what really torques me is when I saw some people online saying like, okay, so 700 victims, 380 leaders and volunteers, but that's not as many as, and then they'll point to some other group.
Yeah, they're going to point to the Catholic Church.
Okay. First of all,
one is too many.
Yeah, one is too many. But listen, this is my business.
Yeah,
this is my convention. This makes me I'm concerned about what's going on in the Catholic Church or the public schools or anywhere else. Sovereign Grace Ministries. I'm concerned about those things. But man, I'm not about to consider those things when I'm trying to focus on this problem right here. This is us.
Yeah, clean your house first.
Right. Take care of your business, man. And let's really take a close and careful look here. It says that of those that have been accused over the past 20 years, about 220 offenders have been convicted or took plea deals, and dozens of cases are pending. These are pastors, ministers, youth pastors, Sunday school teachers, deacons, and church volunteers. Nearly 100 are still held in prisons stretching from Sacramento County, California to Hillsborough County, Florida. State and federal records show. Scores of others cut deals and serve no time. More than 100 are registered sex offenders. Some still work in Southern Baptist churches today.
That everything was horrible. That was...
Yeah, I'm about to go nuclear.
Yes.
Because, and it's hard because, the people that are convicted, if they're registered sex offenders, you can look it up. You can Google it. Put the dude's name in. Put the woman's name in. You can find out. We have resources. We have databases that we can look at. I mean,
correct.
Not within our denomination, of course, because, we don't want to create our own database of what's going on in churches.
Yeah.
At least that's what we've heard before from our leadership. But, you can look it up. How does that happen?
I don't get it. Especially, I mean, one of the most significant and simple steps that ministries take, especially as individuals are working with youth and teen, is a criminal record check.
Yeah.
I mean, that's one thing.
What's it cost, Jimmy? We do it for everybody that walks into a kid's ministry class.
I think
per person?
Per person. I thought it was like $99 or it's $100.
Not per person.
Per person?
No, it's like $5.
Oh, $5?
Yeah, I thought you would know this stuff.
No,
it's Pat's area. That's why you don't
Pat's
know.
area.
Yeah, no.
I'm actually thinking also, never mind. I'm thinking Canada.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
In British Columbia, we had to pay.
No,
I had to do it every couple of years.
Yeah. Well, this is it boils down to like it's just nothing. Even if it was $100 a person. Okay, so you're going to do this for your people coming in. It's necessary, but no, it's not that expensive.
Oh, in Canada, it was 25. Never mind.
Okay, I thought you were.
Now
crazy.
I'm going down.
Yeah, you're feeling a little weird over there. So as you're, this is a huge article, and it's just one of three.
So here's the thing. Sorry. So some still work in Southern Baptist churches today. So that's the other question. Then, what does that mean? If they're with youth, they should have already gotten that criminal record check.
Right.
But what if they're janitorial? What if they're maintenance?
Yeah.
Is there that? Some churches might not do the criminal record checks.
Why wouldn't they? Well, if they're in the church, here's the thing. If you're a small church, I sort of understand why people might not do a background check. Maybe it's a small church of 50 people and they all feel like, well, we all know each other. We're all a family, And
you're the one that's at higher risk.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, because you're gonna have more freedom.
Yeah. Well, no, and you're more naive.
Yep.
You're more naive. I was doing a study when back at my last church, we were trying to put in this plan to protect, for the youth and for children. And, I was at one point, one of the individuals, stood up, was like, hey, one of the leaders of the church, we don't have anyone for nursery. Does anyone want to volunteer to go back there?
Right.
And, someone I've never seen, never met goes, I will. I'm like, oh, heck, no, you're not.
No,
Who's this guy coming in? And so I was like, where's this plan to protect? We're going to get, trying to get everything in order.
You never want the guy you don't know who's eager to be with the kids to be with the kids.
We're trying to say, like, they're like, oh, well, Jimmy, it's a small town. It ain't like the big city where you got that kind of, no, you being naive is making you much more, vulnerable to that.
Yeah, totally. It's, listen, I know, like, you're saying, like, okay, so you do some research, or you can do a background check. To Jimmy and I, there's no excuse not to do that. I don't know.
There is no excuse.
Maybe you've never thought about it, but you're now at this point you're thinking about it, right?
Yeah.
Now you're thinking about it. Maybe it's never crossed your mind before because you're innocent and you haven't been exposed to these kinds of things. Now, Jimmy and I are sensitive to these things. We've talked about this before. We're sensitive to these things because Jimmy has a heart. Like, he's a compassionate dude. He loves people and he's really concerned for people that are hurt. I'm sensitive to it because I was abused as a kid. So, and I don't have a heart, but I'm sensitive to it because of that, right?
Yeah.
So we actually care about these issues, and
you should be caring, right? Like, and I know that sounds really harsh, like, to say, like, if you haven't been doing these things or thinking about these things and you don't care. But one of the things that hits me, I was actually talking to Dr. Wong today. And, one of the things that I shared with him is I want to be able to, as an elder, as a shepherd, I want to be able to look every parent and child in the eye and say, I've done everything I can to protect you.
Yeah.
I've done everything. And that's the part here is, like, you're not doing these things. How could you look in the eye? Right? Whether, you don't want anything to happen, but before it happens, could you look your congregation, can you look these children in the eye and say, I've done everything I could to protect you?
Yeah. I mean, you should be. And listen, sometimes we get defensive because something is exposed, right? When we get exposed, like, wait, you haven't been doing something you should be doing. Sometimes we get defensive about that.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And we'll balk, or we'll be like, hey, or we'll come up with excuses. Listen, okay, you haven't been doing something. I don't care. Do it now.
Just get it done now.
We don't have to worry.
Change now.
Don't worry about feeling bad about what you haven't done yet. Start doing it now. I mean, let's do it while we can before something really bad does happen.
Here's okay.
Go ahead.
Continuing on, at least 35 church pastors, employees, and volunteers who exhibited predatory behavior were still able to find jobs at churches during the past 2 decades.
What the heck?
Look, continuing on in this, in some cases, church leaders apparently failed to alert law enforcement about complaints or to warn other congregations about allegations of misconduct.
All right, we got to talk about that.
Yes. Well, no, confidentiality, Joe. Confidentiality.
Yeah, that don't count.
Yeah, but people think it counts. Aren't you just gossiping?
No. Here's the thing. Let's get a couple things out of the way. Just because someone is accused of a crime doesn't mean they've committed the crime.
Yes, correct.
And in the courts, you are presumed innocent until you are proven guilty.
Not in Obama's America.
Okay. And a lot of people were ready. What was the judge's name? That was the beer guy. He likes beer.
Kavanaugh.
All right, so Kavanaugh.
I like beer.
Yeah,
I still like beer.
So Kavanaugh was appointed to be a Supreme Court judge, and these accusations were made about him from his past. Now, Jimmy and I are those guys that would say, investigate.
Yeah.
Investigate that stuff.
Make sure you check it thoroughly.
Right. Okay, so I'm not about to say that somebody is guilty or not guilty in that context, but I want to take those accusations very seriously, and I want to investigate. Absolutely. So, not everybody that makes an accusation about sexual assault is telling the truth. There's a small percentage of people that are lying.
Yeah.
It's usually 6 to 10%. All right. 6 to 10%, based on some of the recent studies, of people that make an accusation are making it up. So over 90% are telling the truth. But consider this. When that's of reported sexual assaults, when you start to factor in how many non-reported sexual assaults that there are, that percentage of fake reporting would go way, way down.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm going high 90 percentile of people that are, that could say that they're sexually abused, were in fact sexually abused. So one of the things that we're wrestling with here at Redeemer, not wrestling with it, we're working on it, is having a policy. Right?
Yeah.
A policy in place. What do you do? What does your church do? Does your church know what to do? What's the protocol? What's the process when you suspect that someone is being abused, or when someone makes an accusation of abuse?
Yeah.
What do you do? Now, I know what I would do, and you know what you would do.
Yeah.
And the elders, we know what we would do.
Yeah.
We would.
But I don't know if our people know.
Exactly. That's the problem. And this is, I think, the problem that a lot of people have. And so, at Redeemer, early on in our life as a church, about 10 years ago, there was a man who an allegation was made against him from a little child who said that this man had done something to her sexually. Very little kid. And so I heard about this. I talked to the little kid. I talked to the family. And we immediately reported it to the police.
Yeah.
Now, this didn't happen at church or anything like that, but this guy was at our church, and so, as was this family. And so we immediately reported it to the authorities, and we worked with them, and we followed up. That doesn't mean that, of course he was guilty, right? This guy is in prison. So we know what we would do. Like, we know what we would do. We would do the right thing. We're confident of that. But knowing that you would do the right thing isn't enough. Like you said, Jimmy, the people have to know.
People have to know what the process is. They got to know, what is the line of communication here, right? Because that's what's really important here. Because this is a weighty thing. This is a weighty allegation. If that comes up, I think a lot of times people just assume it's, hey, they just misunderstood or something like that. So they don't know what to do, right? Like, they're confused. They're afraid of bringing it forward. They don't know what it means. Cause they don't know how to handle it.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They don't want to, hey, that's a friend of mine. I don't want
exactly.
I don't want to, it's going to cause strain, or people going to look at me weird.
We think we know what we would do. But what if it's like you're somebody that you admire and an accusation is made about them? Then you can be like, well, that's great. He would never.
Yeah.
He would never. Well, you don't get to pick and choose when you do the right thing. You got to consistently do the right thing.
Yes.
And think about how hard it is for people to bring up the idea, the experience. I was sexually assaulted. How hard that is for them to bring it up. When a lot of women who are assaulted, they might, in many cases, they'll try to resist, right? Or a little kid will try, but they don't, little kids don't know how to resist. They don't, and they feel like, well, this is an adult, so they kind of have to go with it. And then people struggle with, well, am I guilty too?
Yeah.
Did I do something wrong in this? And so it's hard. So if you don't have a policy in place that's communicated well to the congregation, which we do not right now, we do not have a policy in place that has been communicated to the congregation. So we're looking at all these various documents and other examples from other churches. We're going to get this done as quickly as we can. And it's being forced by these kinds of revelations and investigations. So the idea that it wouldn't be reported to law enforcement is unbelievable to me.
Yeah.
Though we see it happening again and again. And in fact, that's what we see in this article. In fact, one of the things that the article says is several past presidents and prominent leaders of the Southern Baptist Convention are among those criticized by victims for concealing or mishandling abuse complaints within their churches and seminaries.
Wow.
And there's actually, we'll talk about it, but there's a graphic in there that kind of breaks down some of those accusations of mishandling and cover up that we're talking about here.
Some registered sex offenders returned to the pulpit.
What in the world?
Others remained there, including a Houston preacher who sexually assaulted a teenager and now is the principal officer of a Houston nonprofit that works with student organizations. That's what the federal records show.
Yeah.
The name, at least that they put it out there, it's named Touching the Future Today, Incorporated.
Good grief. Now, listen, I know some people might think like, well, wait a minute. Just because somebody was a registered sex offender, does that mean that they could never be a pastor? Now, I think a lot of our listeners are going to say, nope, can never be a pastor. And that very well may be the case. Certainly, if they violated somebody and something like that, I can understand. But if we're talking about an 18-year-old guy that slept with a 16-year-old girl consensually when they were lost in their teens, he could be a convicted sexual predator because of that. And so as a 30-year-old man, is it impossible for him to go into the ministry? That's something that I think we need to talk through as churches and as Christians. But that is not what we're talking about in general here. We're talking about people that were victims of abuse, people that were not willing participants, those sex offenders returning to the pulpit. Some people are going to say, well, can't they be redeemed? Can't they, Jimmy, can't they find forgiveness and restoration and hope and love? Why would you say they can't be a pastor?
I would say, yes, they can. I just don't, it depends on the situation like you're talking about, right? I mean, I think they can find hope. I think they can find restoration.
Restoration to the pulpit?
No.
Why not?
Because I think, see, now it's weird because now I sound pharisaical, right? I sound.
I'm not going to say that.
I think it's just unwise. I think it's unwise. I think you're just not qualified.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to agree. I think the Lord forgives and can restore your spiritual life, but someone that has taken advantage of people as a leader, I don't see how you can ever be restored to the pulpit. You have broken the trust at such a deep level. You have violated the covenant at such a deep level. I think, yes, you could say it is unwise. I am not in favor of a person that abuses a child to ever be restored to a ministry in any capacity. I don't know how they could be they could be restored to a ministry position working with other sex addicts or abusers, perhaps, right? Counseling, helping, being an accountability partner or something, maybe. But to go back to the pulpit, to be the lead guy or any kind of pastor, I'm going to say no. They inherently, therefore, do not have a good reputation with the world or outsiders, which is one of the qualifications. They're not above reproach. And so I would say, no, they're out. I would agree with you on that. And I don't, people might say, well, that's just, you're just being emotional. You're being overly sensitive. Well, okay. I don't think I'm being overly sensitive. I think I'm being sensitive to the issue. Yeah. And I think what's our job as pastors?
To shepherd and protect.
Right. Okay. So if that's what we're going to do, then, it is our responsibility to shepherd and protect the people more than it is to find a job for homeboy who destroyed somebody's life. Right? That's not. No,
I absolutely agree. Many of the victims were adolescents who were molested, sent explicit photos or texts, exposed to pornography, photographed nude, or repeatedly raped by youth pastors. Some victims as young as 3 were molested or raped inside pastor studies and Sunday school classrooms. A few were adults, women and men, who sought pastoral guidance and instead say they were seduced or sexually assaulted.
This is such a betrayal.
Yeah.
I mean, I know a pastor. Well, he's not a pastor anymore. I knew a guy who was a pastor. And he was he made certain women feel uncomfortable. He was just kind of a creeper, and doing the pop in at weird hours and visiting them and staying too long and late at night. It's kind of weird. And then we come to find out that one of the women that he was counseling was a woman that he had a sexual relationship with of some sort. And in that context, even if she was willing, you are her leader. She is entrusted into your care. You are taking advantage of her.
You're in that position of authority, right? And that's the thing. Yeah. You're abusing that authority.
Yeah. So I know that every person is we say this a lot, just a few bad decisions away from ruining everything. Okay. And so when the stakes are high, and I don't mean your position, when the stakes are high in terms of you're dealing with somebody's life, their soul, their salvation, you're dealing with a level of responsibility entrusted to few people when you compare it to the rest of the world. You've got to be super careful, have a high level of transparency and accountability to make sure that we are protecting these people that are in those situations. It says one example that they give here is Heather Schneider. She was 14 when she was molested in a choir room at Houston's Second Baptist Church. It's one of the most famous Southern Baptist churches in Texas. According to criminal and civil court records, this isn't just like the rumor mill, right?
Yeah.
Her mother, Gwen Casados, said that church leaders waited months to fire the attacker, who later pleaded no contest. And in response to her lawsuit, the church leaders denied responsibility. Schneider, the 14-year-old girl, she slit her wrists the day after that attack in 1994. She survived for 14 years, and then she died of a drug overdose because her life was so damaged by this. And so some people went forward right away, but others, it says, Jimmy, took a lot more time to come forward, right?
Yeah, I think it takes people time, and I think that goes back to what you were talking about before about people. There's a sense of shame,
right?
And they should, like, it's not their fault, right? Like, it's not their fault, but they question, like, is this my fault? Is there something I could have done differently? Did I somehow, advance this?
Right. Or did I not, do enough to push back? And the problem is when you wait too long, right now anyways, when you wait too long to report these kinds of assaults, statute of limitations, it kicks in and it's too late.
Yeah.
It says, David Pittman was 12, he says, when a youth minister from his Georgia church first molested him in 1981. Two other former members of the man's churches said in interviews that they also were abused by him. But by the time Pittman spoke out in 2006, it was too late to press criminal charges. The minister still works at an SBC church.
Wow.
So, I mean, this is a problem. The fact that these journalists are investigating, they're digging deep, they're doing their due diligence. This is what they were able to, a team of people, a small team of people were able to do this research and dig into it. Now, why hasn't the SBC done this?
Well, that's the thing. I think we're, as Baptists, we value our autonomy, right? Mm-hmm. Like, ain't no denomination going to tell us what to do.
So explain autonomy.
Oh, so autonomy, so that the local church, the elders of the local church are the final authority within that church.
So each local church governs itself.
Correct.
Not accountable to another body of elders.
Correct. There's no bishop or overseer
team of elders at a larger level.
Yes.
And not most other Baptist churches don't have elders. Right? They have a pastor and deacons. And they have deacons.
Yeah.
The healthy ones have elders, I would say. At least, well, not necessarily. Healthy churches have elders, but just because you have elders doesn't mean you're healthy.
Yeah, yeah.
We've seen that.
Oh, just even, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, come on. Harvest has a group of elders.
Yeah. Well, we've seen this kind of stuff happen in a lot of churches that have elders as well.
But so here's the thing that in the article, it talks about as at the core of Southern Baptist doctrine is local church autonomy, the idea that each church is independent and self-governing. It's one of the main reasons that Butto say most of the proposals a decade ago were viewed as flawed by the executive committee because the committee doesn't have the authority to force churches to report sexual abuse to a central registry. Okay. So,
but the proposals that he's mentioning here are the proposals that were made to the SBC by SBC members saying, hey, we should have some way of following up on sexual abuse predators. We should have some sort of database. We should have something that allows us to know how to deal with and maybe fix this problem. Those proposals were suggested to leadership. And
so when I read this, that the committee doesn't have the authority to force churches, I actually think I read this as the committee doesn't want to deal with this.
Yeah, because, well, okay, yes, the committee cannot force a church to fill out a form, right? Even the reporting of memberships, right? The annual church profile that we fill out as Southern Baptists, that's voluntary. I always tell Deb, don't bother. Don't do it. And she does it anyways. Right?
Yeah, because we're part of the SBC. That's the difference.
It don't matter.
That you're one of the reasons why the committee thinks it's an exercise of futility.
Make it mandatory. If it matters, make it mandatory. We got mandatory things. You have to give money to be a part of the SBC. You can't be a part of the SBC unless you give money. If you can make that mandatory, why can't you make other things mandatory?
Oh, because the money is more important than anything else.
Yeah,
and that's what I'm being sincere here. They're okay mandating that. They're okay forcing that, but they're not okay forcing some sort of standard and I guess a level of protection for our congregations.
Right. It's like we could do this in a number of ways. We could say, hey, listen, we are going to have we want to set up a system where everyone who's ordained at your church, we get their name and we have a database there, and anybody who's convicted or accused of any crime goes into the same database, and we encourage you guys to report that. If your church is one of those that isn't reporting that, then doesn't mean that they're out, maybe, but it certainly means like, oh, we take note, and you're definitely not. We're not going to be back in that church. We're not going to be encouraging that people to go to that church. We're not going to be promoting anybody in that church to a position of leadership. There's ways that we could at least try to deal with this at the denominational level. And I'm not sure that I buy, and listen, I could be wrong. I'm not sure that I buy that there is no real way to start pushing our churches to become healthier, more accountable as it relates to not just finances, but to the protection of our people. It's one of the things it says here, because every church is autonomous and we basically cooperate together volitionally. The article says that all of this makes Southern Baptist churches highly susceptible to predators, says Christina Brown, an activist who wrote a book about being molested as a child by a pastor at her SBC church in Farmers Branch, a Dallas suburb. She says it's a perfect profession for a con artist because all he has to do is talk a good talk and convince people that he's called by God, and bingo, he gets to be a Southern Baptist minister. Then he can infiltrate the entity of the SBC, move from church to church, from state to state, go to bigger churches and more prominent churches where he has more influence and power. And it all starts in some small church, right? That's what she says. Because what is it? It's a small group of people that haven't done any investigation. They've ordained this guy. He's an ordained Southern Baptist minister, and he can begin to climb the ranks from one church to another.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
So it's a big, painful problem that these guys return to preach, that there isn't a lot of accountability, that there has been cover-ups. In fact, there's a graphic here that sort of breaks it down for you. We'll have all this linked in the show notes. It's a graphic that says that trouble is at the top. 6 former leaders of the Southern Baptist Convention have directly dealt with allegations of sexual abuse or misconduct involving their church, their employees, or themselves. And so if you're a Southern Baptist, you know these names. Right. So like if we go all the way, we won't go. We'll just go in order. Right. Steve Gaines, he was the SBC president in 2016, nominated for 2 years. So it was just before J.D. Greer became and now is the current SBC president. Now, Steve Gaines in 2006, he admits waiting 6 months to fire a pastor who confessed to molestations. And
6 months. How'd you even wait 6 minutes?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how it's not an immediate thing. Listen. Guy's off duty, box up his junk, get him out. Doesn't mean you don't care for him. Doesn't mean you don't walk him through this. Doesn't mean you don't, as you're reporting to the cops, that you're still trying to take care of his soul. That's another issue. But he waited 6 months. Internal investigation finds that...
and the church paid for that. Yeah. Like you paid the guy for 6 months.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The church was ill-prepared for sexual abuse. What about Paige Patterson?
Yeah, he was SBC president in 1998, Fort Worth Seminary president in the 90s, allegedly ignores multiple women claiming attacks by his protege, Daryl Gilliard.
Gilliard, yeah.
Yep, 2007, calls group for clergy abuse victims, quote, evildoers, end quote, who are, open quote, as reprehensible as sex criminals.
What the heck?
2018 is ousted as Fort Worth Seminary head for his handling of multiple rape claims. I mean, and there's even things where he talks about recently, or when it came out, that talk about breaking people down.
Yeah, this girl that was making an accusation about somebody that had raped her. He says, "Well, I want to get her into my office, and I'll break her down.
I'll break her down."
Yeah, like
what does that mean?
It means get her to recant. People can spin that however they want. it means he's going to get her to recant. Now, listen, that you wouldn't immediately say, like, I got to put on the gentle gloves, the gentle touch. I got to talk to this person. It doesn't mean that you conclude that this dude is automatically guilty because it's accusation, but you got to be careful and sensitive. You got to take it seriously.
Exactly.
And you assume that this person that you're talking to is telling the truth while you're dealing with them. I think that's what you do. You kind of assume, like, okay, so help me to understand. You walk through it, and then you evaluate everything as you're hearing them out.
Or how about Jerry Vines, SBC president, 1988?
He's a hero in the SBC.
Yeah. Pastor First Baptist Church in Jacksonville, Florida. In the 90s, allegedly ignores, shames teen who claims assault by,
same guy,
Daryl Gilliard. 2014 publisher of Vines' autobiography says Vines didn't accurately describe the Gilliard situation. And then they talk about that guy, Daryl, 1980s, dozens of allegations brought by members of 3 churches he pastored.
Wow. And in 2009, he was convicted of molesting 2 girls at a Florida church. And this is where, look, we're trying not to go all James McDonald and start cursing. But
stop.
This makes me want to lose my mind.
Oh, yeah.
This makes me so angry. And, for all these people that are, back in their boy, back in their friends, it's like, do they, because I'm legitimately asking, do they not know? Are they so loyal that they have no wisdom that they're just I'm just going to believe my guy because he's my guy, and I'm not going to believe this person because I don't know them.
But that's just,
I don't get it.
That's foreign to me because, I mean, listen, you guys know I love Joe. Like, I love him. But an allegation comes up, it's being reported.
Yeah.
It's being reported. We're going to deal with it at the elder level. There's going to be an internal investigation as well as working alongside, law enforcement authorities to figure out what the heck's going on here.
And here's the thing, reported and publicized. You got to go public with it, right? You got to tell the congregation. Doesn't mean you have to take out an article in the Tribune. No. You got to tell the congregation.
Got to tell the congregation, and you're going to have to step down for a season until
the accusation.
It's all done.
This specific, not like, there's some things that are kind of shady. No, this specific accusation has been made. And
if there's any other ones, please come forward.
Yeah. And so we're going to deal with this. Listen, and I know not everybody, a lot of people jump to the thing like, well, what if it's not true? What if it's a false allegation? Okay, I know that happens. Bad things happen. Okay, rape happens. That's a bad thing too, right? Allegations happen, false allegations. So we have to deal with what is actually happening, right? If somebody is going to say, oh, well, we're not going to take this allegation seriously because we don't know if it's real or not, it puts you in a place where you are potentially denying somebody's justice. You're denying somebody's. Jimmy's turning on the fan. Turn it all the way up high. It's always on high.
I don't know.
Yeah. I know. I usually turn it on. I didn't turn it on.
It sounded so low.
We got Ed Young, right? This is not Ed Young Jr. This is his dad, Ed Young, SBC president in 1992. Mm-hmm. He's the pastor of Second Baptist Church Houston, right? That one that we've been talking about. His church was sued. He wasn't named. And Second Baptist Church hired John Force and Chad Foster. John Force in 1994. He was a contract employee who coordinated music pageants. He pleaded guilty and received deferred adjudication after molesting teen in the choir room. Second Baptist was not a part of the settlement in the Force lawsuit. Chad Foster in 2010, same church, youth pastor, quietly fired by Second Baptist for reasons it says were unrelated to sexual abuse, but hired later at another church. In 2013, he was convicted of 5 felonies for abusing teens. And in 2015, Second Baptist and another church settled 2 lawsuits filed by Foster's victims.
Gosh.
So obviously there's a problem. You know what I mean? It doesn't mean, okay, so the church did this thing. It means these 2 guys did these things and the church bears a level of responsibility by virtue of employing them.
Oh, the elders specifically. Anybody,
whoever's in charge.
That responsibility.
Right. Well, then we got Paul Pressler. Paul Pressler is one of the untouchables because Paul Pressler was one of the instrumental figures in the conservative resurgence of the SBC when the leadership and the seminaries were going liberal. Paul Pressler and guys like Paige Patterson, who are conservative theologically, were able to orchestrate things and move the convention back to its historic understanding of gospel theology, things like that.
Yeah, so he was the vice president in 2002. In 78, 79, he leaves his non-SBC church amid accusation that he groped youth group member. In 2004, settled assault case for $450,000. 2017, lawsuit alleges decades of rapes by Pressler. In 2018, 3 other men allege in 2017 lawsuit that they were groped or solicited. These claims are dismissed because they are filed too late.
See? And then we just had Frank Page. Everybody liked Frank Page. Everybody loves Frank Page. Not a Calvinist guy, but chill, right? And was trying to work with people. He was the SBC president in 2006, executive committee president, CEO, 2010 to 2018. In 2007, he calls a group for clergy abuse victims nothing more than lawyer groups looking to raise their caseload.
Wow.
And in 2018, he resigns from the executive committee for morally inappropriate relationship in the recent past. Which means he was more than likely in a sexual relationship with somebody not his wife. Okay, so these are, 6 leaders?
Yeah.
Dealing with these kinds of accusations. Yes, we're the largest Protestant denomination. And so you're going to have accusations that are made. But that that doesn't mean that they're false. And it doesn't mean that every one of these guys is directly culpable, or just because an accusation is made doesn't mean that they're guilty. But we've got to take the accusations seriously. We've certainly got to take the professing victims seriously.
Yeah, I want to know what JD is going to do.
Well, he's been saying some good things recently, but I think so far what I'm hearing from everybody is like, well, I don't know that we can do anything.
There's talking points. We all know there's talking points.
Yeah, we can do better.
Everyone can do. Quit the talking point. What are you actually going to do? Because this is a known issue.
That's one of the things. What's the plan?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, in 2007 and 2018, Wade Burleson, a former president of Oklahoma Southern Baptist Convention, says it has long been clear that Southern Baptist churches face a crisis. And he had asked in those years SBC leaders to study sexual abuse in churches and bring prevention measures to a vote at the SBC's annual meeting. JD, what are you going to do?
Yeah, it's a fair question. It's an important question and one that deserves a direct answer. Yeah, and listen, maybe say, okay, I don't know what we're going to do, but we are going to do something, and we'll get back to you.
At what time?
Yeah, exactly.
What's the time frame for that?
You got a month. I want to see a plan in a month that's going to make a difference.
Yeah, you
try, and if it doesn't work, at least you try,
and you try again.
Something right. We got to take this more seriously than to grieve it. A lot of people say, well, we grieve. We're sad. We mourn. We hate it. Okay. But listen, what does God require of us? But to do justice and to love mercy and to walk humbly with God. So do something. We got to do something. And we've got to do something here at Redeemer. We don't have a controversy or there's no particular issue or things like that. We've got to make sure that we are doing something to ensure that our people are safe. In fact, it was one of our church members, one of our families that said, so what's the policy?
Yeah.
What's the policy at Redeemer for those who are sexually abused or reported sexually? And what's the policy? And I think we basically explained, well, this is what we do. And he's like, but does the church know that? What's the policy? And why don't you guys put it out there in black and white? And they were right. We absolutely have to do that. So we're going to do something. And yes, it gets more complicated when you're talking about it at the denominational level. But, this is something that we've got to do at the church level and at the denominational level. And, Russell Moore's been talking about this stuff. He has a response on this thing. And Russell Moore says, church autonomy is no excuse for a lack of accountability. He says, in Baptist ecclesiology, each congregation governs its own affairs, and it's not accountable to anyone higher up in the church system. And yet the decisions a church makes autonomously determine whether that church is in good fellowship with others. A church that excuses, say, sexual immorality or that opposes missions is deemed out of fellowship with other churches. The same must be true of churches that cover up rape or sexual abuse. So here, if we find out that there's a Southern Baptist church that ordains a woman or a homosexual, that church will be kicked out of the SBC immediately. Mm-hmm. But why don't we have that same level of and same immediate response to a church that has proven to to be a church that has covered up sexual abuse? Why not?
Because they're paying money.
Well, that's how it feels to people, right?
I mean, I know I sound really cynical when I say that, but follow the money. Follow the money.
Yep. So,
I mean, that's the only other reason I could think of. I mean, there maybe just a willful negligence, willful ignorance. Okay, I'll say that. Let's just even go with ignorance. But even with certain things within the SBC, where we have churches there that have no business being a Southern Baptist church, and yet because they're large, they're got a larger cut. You know, as far as their financial giving, it seems to be okay.
They get a pass. So you asked what JD's doing. One of the things that JD did, if I'm remembering this correctly, people have asked the SBC to put together some kind of a study to investigate all of this stuff.
And he's doing that. It's actually at the end of this Houston Chronicle. He talks about that.
He is the first guy, and I think, again, it was Wade Burleson who pushed for this.
Yes.
Something is, that's being done.
Yeah,
so
Burleson 2020, y'all.
So we've got one step. All right, this is one, and it is a small step. Let's not pretend that this is a big step. This is one small step. Good. But we're going to need to get done.
But here's the thing, though. Even with that, though, I read this, and what the article is saying that Greer is responding, how he's responded, I feel like he's hedging his bet. He's already back, like, not fully into this. Because it says, but Greer sent an email that he is limited by local church autonomy. So there again is that excuse of he's limited. And this is what in an email Greer sent to these reporters. Change has to begin at the ground level with churches and organizations. Our churches must start standing together with a commitment to take this issue much more seriously than ever before. I agree with that. But why then are you already trying to say, listen, this is all the SBC is limited by local church autonomy?
Yeah, I would rather see, because, okay, that's true. That is true. But I'd rather see a positive statement, even though there are, this is difficult because of local church autonomy. We're going to do everything possible to make sure that that's how you say it.
That's the response I want.
Yeah.
That's not the already saying, he
should be aggro about it. He should be mad.
Yeah, I agree. But, and so I just don't like his, the thing that he's saying, hey, we're limited by local church autonomy. Like, it's almost like
shoulder shrug. Yep.
I'm sorry, guys.
Yeah, guess, hey, may the Lord be with you. I mean, it's like, I hope you're okay.
Yeah, bless your heart. I don't like that. I don't like it. To me, it's already saying we're defeated.
Yeah. And I don't think we are. Listen, this is the kind of thing, like, people are going to leave the SBC because of this, right?
Yeah.
And listen, I don't play. I think about leaving the SBC from time to time, and isn't a decision that I get to make. And it's like, I evaluate, like, okay, so should we be a part of this? I do it with Acts 29, whatever we're with. I think it's good to evaluate. Reevaluate. Is it good that we're a part of this group?
Yeah. In what ways are they, influencing us positively? In what ways are we an influence to them? So we're trying to say, okay, is this relationship healthy?
Yeah. And sometimes, even if you might conclude, you know what, we have no influence in a positive direction with them, and their reputation or their methods are too far out of keeping with what the Bible says or what we want to do things. So we're out. Yeah. Some people are going to make that call.
Yeah. Bye, Felicia.
Yeah. I'm not ready to jump ship yet, but I'm asking the question.
Yeah.
And I think we should be asking that question. We should be, like, trying to figure out, like, who are we partnering with? And on one level, it's like, unless you go full autonomous, no cooperation whatsoever, which I think is unwise for people.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, then you're just going to deal with your garbage, nobody else's garbage. But you're also then limiting what can be accomplished. And as far as I can tell, no denomination or network is free of these problems. Okay, so whether it's Acts 29 or obviously Sovereign Grace, there are abuses and missteps that deal with the care of individuals. So I think we need to be rigorously evaluating what are we doing that's wrong, what are we doing that's dangerous and risky, and how can we do what's right and move this in the right direction? Because it's not just, well, we're not doing anything wrong. Okay, but how about risk? Like, what's the risk level? What's the risk factor into your operation? And when it comes to this issue, risk factor is high.
Yeah,
it's really high. So I think that I'm grateful that the article is coming out because I'm way more focused on my people than other people when it comes to dealing with problems, right?
Yeah.
We point our guns at the Reformed guys more than anybody else because that's us. And we point our guns at the Baptists because that's us, right? So, and the SBC in particular because that's us. So, yeah, and what I mean by that is like, listen, we're way more likely to quickly find fault and to point out problems among our people because they are our problems.
Yeah.
We bear the weight of some of that as well. So I'm grateful for the article. It's painful and it hurts. And, when you read this, and we didn't go into all the stories that are here. Obviously, we didn't read the whole thing. It's a lengthy article and there's going to be 2 more parts. There are documents that are shared. You should read this. You should read this. Your elders, your deacons, however you're structured for leadership should be working through this. You should have a policy. Right? You should have a policy
and procedures, and you got to train your people on how to report.
And we're not saying
what
that,
signs to look for. Don't just be reactive, right? That's part of this. You got to be training people how to react to it, but you also need to be training people how to be proactive in this.
Right?
How do you? I'm not saying like. I know there's a fine line, right? I know there's a fine line. Like we're not looking for a heresy hunter here, right? But you are though. There are telltale signs. There are signs that may point to that. At least kind of, and
things that make you ask questions.
And you need to ask those questions.
Right. Doctors will ask people in the room when the spouse isn't there, are you safe at home? Mm-hmm. If the kid shows up to school with a knot on his head, the nurse might be like, hey, so how'd you get that? Casual, cool, like no big deal. Like, oh, I just hit the door. Like, well, didn't you hit the door last week? And didn't you hit the door the week before that? There's just like that's really obvious. But I think you're right. And listen, guys, we're not saying this as 2 pastors that have it figured out. We don't have it all figured out. In fact, we're behind the schedule here. We should have had this in place when we started our church. More churches should be doing this. So, and let me say this: all you got to do is ask local churches that you respect. Please share with us your policy and procedure for dealing with children and sexual abuse. We've got copies of different churches, and they're happy to share, and they're good. They're the one that I looked at in particular, right? I think it was from Sojourn.
Yeah,
it's good stuff.
Very good.
What do you do? How you do it? Really good. If the church isn't willing to share, there's a problem.
Exactly. Why wouldn't you share? That's weird.
Because they don't have report to the authorities, which is legal anyways, not just moral. Because it must not be in there. Why else wouldn't they report it?
It's like I'm definitely interested in what like Christ Community down the road there. I'd love to see what they're doing.
All right, so Christ Community is like the mega church model. They're like the Willow Creek model.
Yeah.
Very seeker friendly.
Without the Willow Creek scandals.
Yeah, right. There's no scandal. Here's the thing.
And the leadership there is very, at least the ones that I know, right? And from a distance, and I used to go to that church.
Right.
But they handled things directly. And
were you there when the youth pastor got busted?
Yeah.
So you were there.
No. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. So youth pastor was busted there for having sexual relationships with youth. Mm-hmm. And they were like, they reported it and they went public with it.
Went public, fired the guy.
Yeah, boom, done. Here's what we're doing. And here's the thing. Like, so we have Harvest, which is just nothing but controversy because of James, abusive leadership and all that. And I've been hearing, even before things were public, I heard so much about that church from people there that were hurt. I've never heard a bad thing coming out of outside of people having differences of opinion on theology.
Yeah, you can have a difference. Right? Exactly.
No scandal.
No scandal like that because the leadership handles it. They take care of it and they do it appropriately in a God-honoring way that protects people.
But then there are people like the Reformed guys are like, well, we don't want to talk to that church because they're not Reformed. They're not. They're not. They don't have a confession that we would embrace.
Yes.
So we can't,
because sexual abuse is only limited.
Right.
To
only the Calvinists are getting that right.
It's so ridiculous. The pride and arrogance of an individual to say, I can't work with a church that may already have something really well laid out for us that we could learn from.
Man, I think that's a part of this, right? We need to be having the conversations. We need to take a learning posture. We need to repent wherever is necessary. We need to make changes, adopt policies, but with all of that, we need to be a people who are so committed to God, so committed to the people that this is a natural burden. Like we should want to take care of people. We should want to get these things solidified. And if you're pushing back against it, you should ask yourself why. What are you afraid of? What's the problem? Yeah, maybe there'll be a small number of people that are mad at us for even reading the article or talking about it. Fine, bye. Yeah. Don't listen. Don't care.
Listen, the SBC doesn't really care about us. Like,
no, we're inconsequential.
Exactly. They don't care about us. At least it feels like that, right? Like there's no love for the JOFO.
Oh, the JOFO. They like our church. We get a lot of love for
a lot of love for the church. JOFO gets
North American Mission Board likes our church because we plant churches, make disciples.
Yeah, but I'm talking about the SBC
they don't want to. They don't care about it. We're weird. So,
I mean, I wish JD would he ain't ever coming on. You and I both know that. He ain't ever coming on.
We could ask.
Oh, yeah. Okay,
let's ask.
All right, we'll ask. But I would love to have a conversation. Be like, man, what's going on? What are you doing? Give us, what's the plan here?
Because everything I know about JD is he's a good guy. Everything that I know about him, he's a good guy. And he's a faithful pastor. I don't have any beef with JD at all. We're a member of the same denomination, same network. So that's all fine. But yeah, I do have some questions too that I'd like to ask and have him answer them honestly, and I'd like, I would offer man, you need to be, I would say in your position on this issue, I want more than sympathy and grief. I want to see some anger, some righteous anger, and I want to see some concrete
action,
even if it doesn't work, right? You got to be trying, you got to go for it. So I don't know. I think that I say I don't know because I don't have all the answers here. I don't know where the truth lies in all of these issues. But one of the things that I think is important is that this team of people were able to establish a database. So if you read the article, I've somehow lost this thing. I don't know where it went. But if you read the article, they have put together a database of people that have been convicted as SBC pastors, or people that are part of this whole scandal. And I think it's it's early on in this thing. Newspapers. Yeah. Thankfully the links are all bolded so you can find it.
And part 2 is coming up. Southern Baptist Church has hired ministers accused of past sex offenses.
Yeah, this is just crazy. This is just crazy stuff, man. So, listen, here's the database. They built a database. So you go to the database and then you can search by name, state, or position.
Wow.
All right, so if I type in Illinois, I'm going to search by state. Oh, here we go. Search by state, Illinois. And then here we go. There are 3 dudes listed right here. So it's got their names and, you can click on it and it'll tell you they were a pastor. This was the county they were in. This guy says registered sex offender in Illinois for sexual assault of a victim age 16.
Wow.
16. And then you can go to their actual record and read more. So listen, a lot of this information is out there. It's on us to do our due diligence as Christians and especially as leaders.
Well, we'd love to hear your thoughts. Let us know. Are we taking it too far? Are we, I guess over exaggerating this, or do you think we don't have an issue? Let us know. You can follow us online, Instagram and Twitter @DocAndDevo, or on Facebook /Dr. Devotion. You can head to the website, drdevotion.com. There you can contact us. You can sign up for the email blast or hit up the store, jofostore.com, and grab some gear. Listen, tag JD. Get online @JD Greer. Tag him. Ask him. JD, what are you doing?
Yeah. Hashtag JD and the JOFO. Come on and we'll talk about it.
Let's do it.
Let's talk about the SBC. And listen, we can talk about this. We can talk about the SBC. We can talk about a lot of stuff. But we definitely are going to be talking about this.
Fresh pod every Monday and Thursday. Blog posts on Wednesdays. Video content on Fridays. Later.